This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, isn't it about time your printer got smart too? Now printing is smart with HP Plus, and the HP Smart app is how it all happens. You can print from your phone with just a tap, no matter where you are, even from your garage/home office/yoga studio. Huh, that is smart. HP Plus. Learn more about smart printing at hp.com/smart.
Empire. When the outdoor games shut down, gaming came to the rescue.
We saw that there was a lot of organic development of this type of activity from our different affiliates. So we have over 200 affiliates globally, worldwide, running hundreds of thousands of events a year. So you can imagine that they're tapped into the same consumer technologies that we all are.
That's Prianka Nandy, Chief Information and Technology Officer for Special Olympics, where inclusivity is being showcased on the modern gaming streams. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The pandemic has been difficult on all families, but the shutdown of so many activities over the last year and a half has been particularly hard on families with children who have special needs. If you're like me, the gaming unit of choice in my house, the PS5, has been working on overdrive ever since. The popularity of gaming is undeniable, and for Special Olympics, it presented a unique opportunity in their mission of inclusivity. Our guests this week are Prianka Nandy, the Chief Information and Technology Officer for Special Olympics, and Jenn Panattoni, who is the head of Xbox Social Impact Microsoft, as they have teamed up to build an inclusive eSports event with the inaugural Gaming for Inclusion eSports tournament that'll take place this month. Thank you both for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Bram.
Pleasure to be here.
Prianka, let me start with you. What was the genesis of this event? How did this get started?
Actually, this started back in 2020. So we were basically realizing with COVID that our operations globally had to be shut down for the safety and health of our athletes. You can imagine we are an in-person organization. It's all about sports and playing them on the field, being able to build inclusivity with unified partners and our athletes together face-to-face. That's what we do. But understanding that we couldn't meet in public and we had to no longer have these events, it was really about how do we use digital technologies and all these platforms we have many of our supporters already and potentially new supporters congregating to start making connections with athletes online. And that's when we launched an event in 2020 with Microsoft to start bringing together our athletes and start looking at esports as a way to keep us connected during this period of time. And so that was very successful. It ended up being an award-winning event. We received a 2020 Xbox virtual gaming event happened. The Microsoft corporate community was involved. There's an impact award that was received. And with that, we decided let's take this a step further and go with this completely virtual online event moving forward.
And Jenn, give me the point of view from Microsoft and Xbox about teaming up with Special Olympics.
You know, at Xbox, we believe that gaming is for everyone and play is a fundamental human need for everyone. We want to make sure people feel that they're included and then they're welcome and that they belong. And we built on a lot of the learnings and successes that we had with the 2018 USA Games for the Xbox eSports tournament that we did there for Special Olympics. And when Special Olympics reached out in 2020 and they mentioned, hey, you know, our physical events are being canceled. We like to find ways to keep our athletes connected. How do we do it? You know, we came together as a team and said, hey, we did this physical event in 2018. Let's see what we can do for a digital event in 2020. And it was such an amazing event. It was just great to see the reception, the amount of people that participated. And so when 2020 or 2021 happened, we decided, you know what, let's start gaming for inclusion. And Special Olympics, of course, was all in. And we're just excited to see that this is another way to reach athletes where they want to be met. And, you know, further drive home that esports and gaming are an inclusive place.
Priyanka, let me go. Let me talk to you about esports just for a moment in general. Did it become a priority for Special Olympics to have as events and options for your athletes pre-COVID, or did the pandemic kind of exacerbate options for you?
I think digitizing and virtual experiences was something we were considering pre-COVID for sure. And I think the early examples that Jen just pointed to in our 2018 USA Games event, which was actually in person, was starting to bridge those worlds of, where could we look at those in-person events, incorporate esports there, but also incorporate other types of virtual experiences for athletes. So we're talking about online practice. We're talking about coaches speaking directly to their athletes using video, all those kinds of capabilities, which are brand new for us. Like I said, we were working primarily with groups and teams and individuals on a field. How would we extend what our coaches do and what our volunteers do and what our leaders do using virtual technology? So that was something we were already working with. Bringing it in and holistically into the esports world, that's where we really teamed up with the experts at Microsoft to do that. But there's lots of other modalities that we're looking at for incorporating virtual into our programming.
Your athletes, your parents, obviously in everybody's household who have children, and I have young children too, gaming has become just a massive part of their just general lifestyle. Were you hearing from your athletes and your parents that they wanted more gaming and esports to be part of Special Olympics?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we saw that there was a lot of organic development of this type of activity from our different affiliates. So we have over 200 affiliates globally, worldwide, running hundreds of thousands of events a year. So you can imagine that they're tapped into the same consumer technologies that we all are, right? They're gaming, they're using fitness and wearable devices. So those are just other examples of ways that we are saying, okay, these digital capabilities are out there. We have small pilots being done already in different states, and they're bringing together their athletes already. So how do we make this kind of more of a holistic approach for the entire movement and work with large partners like Microsoft to expand this worldwide? So this is our first attempt with the setup of this event to bring in our international athletes for the first time, kind of holistically in this event. So it's really just expanding on those capabilities and using the platforms that Microsoft helps develop to do that.
And Jen, how, from your point of view, how have you all viewed the games and all of the different products that you have as inclusive as possible?
I mean, inclusion is a huge belief for us. We strive to make Xbox an incredibly inclusive platform with many different avenues. For the Special Olympics esports program, it's important to us to make sure that people know that they can belong in esports and that they can compete in esports. It really it lowered the barrier to entry because, having been a lifelong gamer, if you had told me 10 years ago that competitive video games would be a thing, I would have lost my mind, right? And now that we have competitive esports, we want to make sure that everyone feels like they do belong and that they can do it. And so to have a partner like Special Olympics who came to us and said, hey, we have all these athletes who want a game, we said, you know what? We think we can make that happen.
I mean, you're talking to someone who played Tecmo Bowl and Atari. So the idea of having a competitive landscape for this stuff is ridiculous to me, but here we are. Priyanka, I want to talk to you a little bit about the mission just for a moment, and how esports kind of fits into those ideals. I think some of the magic of Special Olympics is you get to see the athletes literally complete the athletic accomplishments, and it sends this message of inclusivity. In esports, I think the platform is a little bit different. And so how do you try to go about profiling your athletes so people see them accomplish these feats?
Yeah, I think that's where we're using social media to our benefit. What we're really thinking about is having a multi-day tournament where we're really going to be using all of our social tools at specialolympics.org, or at Special Olympics on all of our social channels, plus our website, to really amplify the participation. We have over 190 athletes who are going to be competing in this event. We're going to be streaming some of the actual competition live with some of our celebrity partners who are joining. So it's really going to create a view of watching somebody compete and get excited and be part of this with somebody who doesn't have ID. So you have an ID athlete, you have a non-ID athlete competing together. And that's that message of we're all here to play, as Jenn said, and we can all do that together. And this space can be just as inclusive as any other, live space can be, just like we do on the field. So that's the translation, really, I think, that will come through. And I think the gaming community is definitely prepared and open to be more inclusive. I think, it is a very, can be a geeky, wonky group of people who really get into gaming, but we know that there are lots of types of players out there. We have the ones who, really get into these games and want to be competitive, and the ones that we just want to play casually, and that's another group that we'd want to invite. So, all things being equal, I think this is just a great place to bring together the world between our teams.
All right, since you're the self-admitted gamer here, you want to talk about the community aspect of it and how they are going to open their arms to all of these different types of events?
Well, I think it's really fascinating. If you look at the streaming services for gamers in general, so the Twitches, the Discords, those types of platforms, you start to see where people are really interested in watching other people play, and different play styles, are very attractive. And you can have these kind of social influencers and celebrities that come through this ecosystem. And if you have somebody who's advocating for a cause like inclusivity, and they have millions of followers, that's a huge platform for us. And why should we not think about somebody who has vetted through the community, through the great content and gaming that they do, as somebody who's also advocating for a cause like Special Olympics or any other cause that speaks to them. So this is, again, a trend that I've seen with the gaming community, where they really do have leaders within their space that are advocating for well-known brands and organizations. And I've seen a lot of amazing fundraising and even engagement come out of those events. So I think we're just, again, borrowing the best practice that we've seen already kind of generated out there across a lot of the streaming platforms that people are on.
This episode is brought to you by KPMG Risk Services. KPMG believes that when you've earned the trust of all your stakeholders, that's when your business has a solid platform to grow. That's the trusted imperative. KPMG Risk Services develop and put in place dynamic risk strategies designed to help your business earn that all-important trust. Go to read.kpmg.us/trust to learn more.
I think you're kind of soft selling a little bit. I mean, to say that people are interested in watching it is a real understatement here. And I know you know that, because there's just massive amounts of audiences and stream options. So I would assume if Special Olympics were, and I'm asking you, Jenn, at least to start with, if you're looking for a niche area within a very crowded but vibrant space in getting your product across and watched and viewed, have you kind of come to where best practices are to try to get through the noise of all the different Twitch streams, YouTube streams, et cetera?
For the partnership with Special Olympics, we're happy to, open up our own channels as well. Priyanka had mentioned that Special Olympics is using their social, all their different marketing channels. Us the same, even at the Microsoft level, because this is so important to us. So we, we'll have it on our Twitch channel, which has a very large viewership. We'll have it on our social channels, really driving home of, hey, if you want to join us in this celebration, watch. Or there are other ways for people to get involved too. As the head of social impact, just doing the team's scope is very broad. And so we have ways for people to even participate in donating. So if you have Microsoft rewards, which you can get points playing games, searching on Bing, et cetera, you can actually donate those points into donations to Special Olympics, who can then take that to further their mission. And so it's a way for the gaming community to really come together, and not just, it's not just about Xbox. It's about the gaming community at large and the Xbox player community coming together with us to celebrate these athletes and celebrate eSports becoming more accessible and more inclusive. So we're happy to be doing and partnering with Special Olympics on such vital, important work.
Priyanka, can you talk about that for a moment? You guys have had clearly a lot of impact in getting your traditional athletic events noticed. And in this case, this is a little bit different in a different space. How are you kind of viewing maximizing the amount of attention that you're hoping to garner from events like this?
I think this is our first foray into doing something of this scale and size. So we're really going to see how successful we are together. I'm confident that Microsoft is given us all of the data and the other things that we need to make sure that when we do these types of events in the future, that we have the right baseline and the lessons learned from this experience. So that's how I'm kind of seeing this inaugural event. I think for digitizing our movement broadly and thinking about all the audiences that we're trying to reach through a variety of digital means. Again, the gaming community is one of those. And that also includes, the casual gaming community. So it can just extend well beyond those hardcore esports watchers to much more people the more we get this message out here. Like, this is another place that we are. We're in esports. We're also in traditional sports. We're also in schools. We're also in the medical community.
Yeah.
And I think we're just looking for ways to use digital in as many of those appropriate manners that we can, and making sure we have great partners like Microsoft ushering us through those networks.
I'll let you both go just on a general question about the last year and a half in these unprecedented times. Jenn, for you, could you kind of describe from the esports and Xbox point of view what the last year and a half has been as you've thought through how to engage with maybe new audiences or engage with your old audiences as things had been shut down?
Gaming has a really unique ability to bring people together and to entertain people, to inspire people. As Priyanka mentioned, people are doing fundraising for causes that are important to them while gaming. And, to bring people together and connect. As a personal example, gaming has been my way to keep connected with my friends since we've been staying home, staying safe. I still have the ability to maintain partnerships and relationships with my friends while we game. And so it's been an interesting last year, I guess, as we're all very aware. It's just been really interesting to see the reception to gaming and players really stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, I have a way to drive impact. I have a way to bring some positivity. I have a way to stay connected. So it's been really great to see the gaming community and players really step up to that plate.
And Priyanka, from the viewpoint of Special Olympics, look, obviously a lot of live events had to be canceled because of the pandemic. And anyone like myself with children knows it's been a struggle to get them socialized over the last year and a half. How have you kind of viewed navigating this really unusual time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think what we've had to do is pivot, like I said, to a lot of video-based engagement. So this would have been everything from having fitness challenges that you can do from home, that you do with other people, like on a platform like Zoom, and you're watching everyone doing a virtual fitness class, to doing just a step tracking challenge that you can just count the numbers of steps you're doing, having socially distant workouts. Even we've managed to do that in different cases. So it's really been about thinking about how do we do what we do on the field, but provide access to seeing that and connecting with your coach and connecting to other athletes using virtual tools. That's been the biggest way that we've been able to pivot engagement and not making sure that we're keeping tabs on our athletes while they feel isolated during this time. And we do know that. We've been surveying our athletes and their current level of isolation, and are they getting to reach out to their teammates and to their coaches and their social groups. And we're finding that, many of them are struggling just like the rest of us. So what we're trying to do is really empower our affiliates and our programs to offer these types of challenges and fitness events virtually whenever we can. And if they have the opportunity in their communities where things are opening up, that we give them the protocols to do that safely, when the time comes. So that's how we've been able to pivot. And in many cases, some of our major events we've had to postpone to a later date when it is safe to have more people in person.
The Gaming for Inclusion experience is going to take place September 12th through the 18th. Jenn Panattoni is the head of Xbox Social Impact and Microsoft. Prianka Nandy is the Chief Information and Technology Officer for Special Olympics. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bro.
On the next Future Sport podcast, understanding eligibility in the collegiate ranks is way more complicated than changing name, image, and likeness laws.
When you work with enough students, you start seeing patterns. And one pattern that became really abundantly clear was a real lack of understanding about really the complicated rules and requirements to be academically eligible to play in sport, whether that's NCAA, NAIA rules. And consequently what happened was many students that we had currently worked with were, falling into these, black holes of academic ineligibility. And once that occurred, it was pretty difficult to dig them out.
That's Kim Michelson. She and co-founder of Honest Game, Joyce Anderson, discuss their mission to help student athletes understand how to navigate the remarkably complicated world of NCAA eligibility. That will do it for this episode. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein.